Are DJs. Most people are DJs.
Hello, this is Michael O.D. Welcome to episode 2 of 2014 of the Most People Are DJs podcast, the podcast of indie pop culture that I experience and bring to you as often as I can kind of throw it together. This week's episode is a little different. You can see I've got some photos and pictures to look at as I'm talking, and it's going to be a little bit shorter than my usual. I will cut out the songs that I normally play during an episode and include those in a SoundCloud soundtrack on my blog page, mostpeopleardjs.com, that you can listen to. So it's a little bit more of an immersive experience. Hopefully, I'm going to try this experiment, see how it works, and maybe do it a little more often. This week's topics are all centered around a show, Fusion's 6th birthday at the Crowfoot, which featured some amazing bands that I need to spend some time talking about. The Front Bottoms, Gates, and City Light, which there's a little funny story to go along with City Light. Let's start with the Front Bottoms. Front Bottoms, I was aware of, a little over a year ago. I was at the Y show, WHY ? At Crowfoot, and there were a couple girls who just, they were talking about bands that they loved to see live, and they mentioned Front Bottoms, saying they were the best band they've ever seen live, and I thought, well, you're really young, so you haven't seen that many bands. How good could they be? And more time went by. I read a little bit more of the Front Bottoms. Then I really got into them as a friend said, let's go to the show. Now, he didn't end up going, but I ended up going, and I've been listening to Front Bottoms nonstop since then because they're bringing back kind of a sensibility and sound that I haven't heard in a long time. And God, I mean, I call it like it's almost like a friendly punk sound. It's acoustic punk, pop style with horns and other instrumentation. And their songs just really reach deep inside of them. They bring it to us and make a huge connection. I mean, even though I'm pretty separated from these guys probably by about 20 years, I can relate to a lot of what they're singing about. I can definitely relate to their emotions, and their songs are very emotional. And they're very simple. I mean, you can immediately kind of figure out what each song is about. They're very hard band to poke into to say, well, what are these guys talking about? They're talking about very simple themes of love and loss and trying to get along with others, trying to bring yourself as a part of, trying to get yourself into society, and then trying to withdraw yourself from society as well. So a couple guys from New Jersey. And man, they put on a great live show. They put on a live show that I haven't seen in years. Again, talking about that experience that brings me back to my youth, and that they have a lot of moshing and people jumping out, stage diving is what we used to call it. Stage diving at their shows. And you can see from the video in the background that there is a lot of people jumping up on stage, singing along with them, and then jumping off the stage. And while I don't have the sound on, there is also a lot of singing along with the band. A ton of singing along, and everybody knows all the lyrics. So it's a really fun experience. They played for over an hour and a half. Everybody knew every song. Everybody shouted every song along with them. It was a really fun experience, and it was one of those experiences that you don't get very often. There, you can see the photos around here. That lead singer, who is Brian Celia, and he also plays guitars. Just a really great guy who just does a lot of bringing the audience into the show. Now, along with that, there were a lot of other bands that played. One of the things I like about these experiences is that you get to discover new music that you may not have, that you have no idea what you're going to find out. My discovery for this episode was a band called Gates. Gates is a band also from New Jersey. They have an EP out called You Are All You Have Left to Fear. They play a kind of what is known as loud, quiet, loud music, where it starts out kind of loud with a lot of guitars and moving around, and then it quiets down to where the singing comes in, and then it goes loud again. And a lot of times, that can get a little, maybe a little tiring, but it wasn't that night at all. It was very exciting. In fact, I just got in. There was so much dynamic stuff going on with the band, and they would jump at the same time. The lead singer looked a little bit like Jesus, a little bit of a great beard going on there. The guitarist would wave his hair around. I got some great shots of the guitarist, and their sound is very good. So they have an EP out called You Are All You Have Left to Fear. They also have a record out. You can find them on Spotify. You cannot find them out on SoundCloud. Still a good band to check out. The final band that I'm going to talk about is City Lights. Now, City Lights, I came into the show and expecting to see a band called City Light, who I've seen before, and I like a whole lot. So I came in seeing City Lights, expecting it was City Light. In fact, this is the really funny story, is that I was at the merch booth for City Lights, and they had an amazing t-shirt. I mean, you can see it here. It's an amazing t-shirt. Love the t-shirt. And I really thought that I'm going to buy this t-shirt. And I thought, man, this is kind of a weird t-shirt for City Light. Because what I know City Light as is an electronic pop band that does songs that are a little more down-tempo. And you see this shirt, and it's so energetic, and it's loud, and speaking at you. And I thought, wow, this is a really different shirt for them, but I love that graphic. So I bought the t-shirt, as you can see. And then I went and saw City Lights. And I found out that they're not the same band. City Lights is from Ohio. They're kind of a 5-piece pop punk band. And they've got a record out. They've got a few records out. Their latest is called The Way Things Should Be. They are very anthemic, and is that how I want to say it? Anthemic. They do lots of pop punk anthems that you can have brilliant kind of uplifting lyrics. You can sing along with them. The lead singer is very into his songs, and he shouts them, but he shouts them in a way that they still bring it down to kind of a pop level, but they still got kind of a hardcore edge to them. They bring a lot of energy, and that's what that shirt does. It brings a ton of energy. That's City Lights. So now I found another City Light band called City Lights that I like a lot as well. So I like both bands, and I don't feel bad about getting the t-shirt at all. But it is funny because I definitely thought I was seeing a different band that night, which just shows you how many bands have out names that are so similar. I'm going to wind up this episode with a podcast I want to tell you about, the Ice-T podcast, Final Level. I think more artists should do this, and it's good to see Ice-T doing it, because Ice-T, I met him a long time ago in San Diego for like an MP3 seminar conference thing I went to. And ever since then, I thought he was a cool guy. I saw him play Lollapalooza. And I've always read, the OG album. It's a great album. I've always read his stuff and thought he was a really great speaker. So why not do a podcast? He's finally got one out. It's called Final Level. He games a lot. He's a big gamer, and he talks about how he likes gaming and how gaming is cool. I don't game, so I can't relate. But along with him on his podcast is Mick Benzo. Mick Benzo, I think, is his DJ. It's kind of a funny podcast. It almost sounds like a parody at times, where Ice-T will be talking about something, then Mick Benzo will just come in and say, that's news, and other things like that. You really have to listen to it to get the feel of it. It is fun. It's very confrontational. He talks about everything. Talks about movies, news, what he thinks about everything. And he talks about his acting on Law and Order SVU, his experiences there, and he's real about it. One thing I thought about maybe with sometimes with actors is that, and especially kind of singers who then become actors, is they remove themselves from where they were at one point in time. And with all that time of being removed from it, maybe they change as people, and he changed so much as people that they're not the people we recognize. Well, that's not true with Ice-T. He's still the same person. And when he talks, he's like, oh, he's still that same Ice-T. It's probably the same could be said for Ice Cube. I'm not so sure. But he's another one of those guys. Henry Rollins is another one I would think of it. No matter how far removed he's been from his punk days, he's still got that spirit with him. God, I wish he'd do a podcast I could download on a regular basis. And maybe he doesn't, I don't even know it, because that's the way podcasts are these days. They spring up, you don't even hear about them until they're a few episodes in. They start listening to it, and then they vanish. That is it for this week's episode. Now, you can find out so much stuff about this episode by going to the website, mostpeopleardjs.com, and by watching the pictures and clicking on some links. I've got an affiliate for the episode. This affiliate is somebody that can save you money, while at the same time they can bring me in a little bit of money to keep on doing the podcast that I do. That podcast is GoDaddy.com. GoDaddy, you can save a lot of money there by using their coupon codes. A couple of them, you can save 30% off with the code DJ30. DJ off 30. DJ off 30, DJ off 20. You can save 20% or you can save 30%. Personally, I think that saving 30% is a better deal. That's DJ off 30. You can see all the codes at my website, mostpeopleardjs.com, along with the link for this blog. And the other thing you can do that would really help me out is I've got an Amazon.com link at my podcast. You click on that link, you go to Amazon.com, you buy what you want. And I get just a little small piece of that, which, you guys all know the story with both of these. You help out the show by going ahead and going to those sites. That is it for this week's show. I really appreciate listening, and I will talk to you sometime in the next couple weeks.